Captain Jake Morrison stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. His hands were tight fists as he watched the vote numbers appear on the big screen. The Council had just voted to stop humans from expanding into new parts of space. The vote was clear. 847 species said yes, only 23 said no, and 12 did not vote at all. Ambassador Lisa Chen stood nearby, trying to stay calm, even though they had lost badly. She had worked for 3 years to make friends with other species in the Council. The Zephyrians had promised to help them. The Crystal People seemed to like humans, okay? Even the ancient Voidwalkers said they might not vote against humanity. But everything fell apart when the hegemony made their move. The Altarian hegemony was led by Grand Chancellor Vextel. He had 6 arms and floated on a special platform. For many years, he had been building power in the Council. His argument against humans was simple. Humans were too dangerous to be trusted with freedom in space. The human species, Vextel, said in a loud voice that filled the hall, has shown us in their short time with us that they are unstable. They fight wars against each other. They use up resources too fast. They refuse to follow the natural order that has kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. The evidence he showed made humans look terrible. He talked about the war between Earth and Mars in 2387. He mentioned the resource wars on Europa. He brought up the failed colony on Kepler 4 for it to be where human settlers had problems with the local life forms. Every story was told without explaining why these things happened. Dr. Sam Torres was Earth's top scientist who studied alien life. He tried to explain the real story during earlier meetings. Said, the Kepler problem happened because humans did not understand the planet's ecosystem. When they realized their mistake, the colonists left right away. But nobody wanted to listen to his explanations. Commander Alex Barnes watched from the visitor area as the council chamber filled with alien sounds of celebration. His military uniform felt heavy as he thought about what this vote meant for humanity's future. The restriction was not just about expanding to new worlds. It was about access to important resources, trade routes, and defensive positions. Earth's colonies in the inner systems already had too many people and not enough resources. The Outer Rim was humanity's best hope for survival and growth. Ambassador Chen stood up from her seat. Her movements were slow and careful. The huge chamber became quiet as she walked to the speaking platform. Her footsteps echoed in the vast space, even though the room was designed to absorb sound. Honored delegates, she began. Her voice was clear and reached every corner of the room through the translation machines that let thousands of different species understand each other. I have served as Earth's representative to this council for 15 years. In that time, I have watched this body make decisions that shape the destiny of countless worlds and civilizations. She stopped talking and looked around at all the assembled delegates. Today, you have made a decision that will reshape the galaxy in ways you cannot imagine. You have chosen to judge an entire species based on fear rather than facts. You chose prejudice over potential. The chamber stayed silent, which was unusual for the normally noisy Galactic Council meetings. Humanity came to this council seeking partnership. We wanted to contribute our unique perspectives and abilities to the greater galactic community. We offered our medical advances, our planet-changing technologies, our military skills to defend peaceful worlds. We ask only for the same opportunities for growth and expansion that every other species in this chamber has enjoyed. Her voice grew stronger and more determined. Instead, you have chosen to treat us like children who need to be managed. You see us as a threat that must be contained. You have forgotten that humanity did not ask to join this council. We were invited, specifically because of those very qualities you now fear. Grand Chancellor Vextel rose on his platform. His voice cut through the chamber's silence. The decision has been made, Ambassador Chen. The vote was clear and final. Humanity must accept the will of the majority. Ambassador Chen turned to face the Altarian leader directly. The majority, Chancellor, is not always right. History has shown us time and again that popular opinion can be manipulated. Fear can drive even good people to make terrible mistakes. She went back to her seat and began gathering her papers and documents. Her movements were slow and deliberate. Captain Morrison watched as she placed each document, each datapad, each symbol of humanity's diplomatic presence into her carrying case. Earth's delegation formally withdraws from all council proceedings, she announced. Starting now, humanity rejects the authority of this body to control our species' destiny. The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. The translation machines struggled to keep up with all the noise. Security drones moved into position to maintain order, but Ambassador Chen continued packing her things. Ignoring the chaos around her, Dr. Torres and Commander Barnes joined her at the human delegation's seats. Their faces were serious but determined. As they prepared to leave, Ambassador Chen made one final statement. "When the history of this day is written," she said, her voice somehow carrying over all the noise, "let it be recorded that humanity offered friendship and was met with fear. We offered cooperation and were met with suspicion. We offered partnership and were met with prejudice." She closed her case and stood up. "From this day forward, humanity will chart its own course among the stars. We withdraw not in anger, but in disappointment. Not in hate, but in hope that someday, when you have need of the very qualities you now fear, you will remember that you chose this path." The human delegation walked out of the Galactic Council chambers for the last time. Behind them, the debate continued, but it no longer mattered. The decision had been made, and the universe would never be the same. As they walked through the corridors of the council building, Ambassador Chen felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for what could have been, and relief that humanity would no longer be held back by fear and politics. Captain Morrison spoke quietly as they reached their shuttle. "Ambassador, what happens now?" Lisa Chen looked back at the massive council building one last time. "Captain, we showed the galaxy what humans can really do when we're free to be ourselves." The shuttle lifted off from Nexus Prime, carrying the last human delegation away from the Galactic Council forever. In the months to come, the galaxy would learn that humanity's departure was not an ending, but a beginning. The day humans left the Galactic Council truly was the day the universe changed forever. 3 months had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Captain Jake Morrison now commanded the biggest fleet movement in human history. Hundreds of ships filled space as humanity began its great journey to the Outer Rim. They were leaving Council space forever. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the flagship Independence. She watched the final preparations for leaving the Centauri system. This was the last human outpost in Council territory. Every human living there had chosen to leave with their species rather than stay under alien control. "Final count, Admiral," said Lieutenant Colonel Ben Harris from his communication station. 1,247 ships of all types. We are carrying about 2.8 million civilians, plus full military escort. The numbers were amazing. In just 3 months, humanity had organized the evacuation of every human settlement within Council space. Not a single colony had chosen to stay under the new restrictions. Dr. Rebecca Stone was the fleet's chief scientist. She joined Admiral Sullivan at the observation deck. The biology teams have found 17 worlds that might support human life in our target area, she reported. Long-range scans suggest at least 5 have the minerals we need for major colonies. Their destination was called the Frontier Zone. This was a region of space beyond the Council's borders. It was mostly unexplored, full of unknown dangers and untapped possibilities. For humanity, it meant something precious: freedom Captain Morrison's ship. The exploration vessel Pioneer had been among the first to enter the frontier zone. His reports painted a picture of amazing possibilities, but also serious challenges. Ancient ruins showed that other civilizations had once lived there, but something had caused them to disappear. Commander Lucy Parker led the advanced scout teams. She had found evidence of massive space engineering projects throughout the region. There were Dyson spheres in various stages of construction, stellar collectors, and vast space habitats that had been abandoned for thousands of years. Whoever built these wonders had technology that was better than even the most advanced council species. The archaeological implications are staggering, Dr. Stone continued. We are talking about a civilization that may have been able to manipulate space and time itself. The energy readings we are detecting suggest technology that could change our understanding of physics. Admiral Sullivan nodded seriously. In the current inhabitants. That is where it gets complicated, Commander Parker said as she joined the group. We have detected signs of at least 3 different space-traveling species in the region. None of them have made contact with the Council. Our long-range sensors suggest they are technologically advanced, but not unified. There is evidence of ongoing wars between them. The strategic implications were clear. Humanity was not just entering empty space. They were entering a region with its own complex political and military situations. It would require all of their diplomatic, scientific, and military skills to establish a foothold in such an environment. General Paul Mitchell commanded the evacuation's military forces. He arrived on the bridge with the latest intelligence reports. Council forces are keeping their distance, but they are definitely watching our movements. The Altarian fleet has set up a patrol line along the boundary of their space. The Altarians' behavior was predictable, having pushed humanity out of the Council. They were now making sure that the human problem truly left their area of influence. What they had not expected was the scale and organization of the human response. Any communication from the Council? Admiral Sullivan asked. Several species have requested private meetings, General Mitchell replied. The Aquarians, the Silicon Collective, and, surprisingly, 3 members of the Neutral Bloc. It seems our departure has created some unexpected political ripples. The Neutral Bloc's interest was particularly significant. These species had historically avoided taking sides in Council politics, preferring to focus on their own development. If they were reaching out to humanity, suggested that the political landscape within the Council was shifting. Dr. Stone pulled up a holographic display showing the frontier zone. We have also detected something else, she said, her voice taking on an excited tone. Energy signatures that match theoretical predictions for quantum tunneling networks. The implications hit everyone at the same time. Quantum tunneling networks were the holy grail of space travel, allowing instant transportation across vast distances. If such a network existed in the frontier zone, it would give humanity access to resources and strategic positions throughout the galaxy. How confident are you in this assessment? Admiral Sullivan asked. 87%, Dr. Stone replied. The mathematical models are consistent, and the energy patterns match what our theoretical physicists have predicted. If we are right, we are not just finding a new home. We're finding the key to revolutionizing galactic civilization. Captain Morrison's voice came over the communication system from the Pioneer. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from one of the indigenous species. They are requesting a meeting. The bridge fell silent. First contact with a new species was always a momentous occasion, but given the circumstances, it carried even greater weight. Nature of the transmission, Admiral Sullivan asked. It is remarkably sophisticated, Morrison replied. Full translation. Matrix, cultural context indicators, even mathematical proofs to demonstrate peaceful intent. Whoever these beings are, they have been watching us for some time. Commander Parker leaned forward. Watching us from where, Anna? That is the interesting part, Morrison continued. The transmission is coming from one of those ancient orbital habitats, the ones we thought were abandoned. The revelation sent a chill through the bridge crew. If the ancient builders were still present in the frontier zone, humanity's entire strategic assessment would need to be reconsidered. Admiral, General Mitchell said quietly, "We need to consider the possibility that we are not just entering someone else's territory. We might be walking into the middle of a conflict that has been going on for thousands of years." Admiral Sullivan stared at the holographic display showing the frontier zone. Its mysteries suddenly seemed far more dangerous than promising. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Reduce approach speed by 50%. All ships to battle readiness. Condition 3. She turned to her officers. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears our exodus is about to become significantly more complicated." The great human migration continued, but now with the knowledge that the frontier zone held secrets that could either lift humanity to unprecedented heights or destroy them entirely. The universe was about to test humanity's resolve in ways they had never imagined as the massive fleet moved deeper into unknown space. Every human aboard understood that they were not just seeking a new home. They were entering a region where ancient powers stirred, where forgotten technologies waited to be discovered, and where humanity would either find its destiny among the stars or face extinction far from the world of their birth. The journey to the frontier zone would take several more weeks, but already it was clear that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. The meeting took place in the shadow of a massive space station that made even Earth's largest structures look tiny. Captain Morrison stood in the shuttle bay of the Independence, adjusting his dress uniform one final time before the most important first contact in human history. Dr. Rebecca Stone checked her translation equipment, while Ambassador Lisa Chen reviewed the cultural briefing materials they had quickly put together. The beings they were about to meet called themselves the Architects, and their technology suggested they were the original builders of the ancient structures throughout the frontier zone. "Remember," Chen said quietly, "we are not just representing humanity in this meeting. We are potentially negotiating for our species' survival." The shuttle Horizon carried the human delegation through a docking process unlike anything they had ever experienced. The habitat's docking bay used gravity manipulation to guide their craft, technology that human science could barely understand, let alone create. Lieutenant Ellen Foster piloted the shuttle and whistled softly as they passed through energy barriers that smoothly changed them from the vacuum of space to breathable air. Whatever these architects are, they make the Council's most advanced species look primitive. The delegation emerged into a vast chamber that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. The architecture folded in on itself in ways that hurt to look at directly, while lighting came from sources that cast no shadows. It was beautiful and deeply unsettling at the same time. Their hosts were equally remarkable. The architects appeared as tall, graceful beings composed of what looked like living crystal and energy. They moved with fluid precision, and their communications came not as sound, but as direct thoughts translated into language. "Welcome, children of Earth," their leader communicated, his mental voice carrying undertones of vast age and wisdom. "I am designated as Keeper Zulaneth. We have observed your arrival in our domain with great interest." Ambassador Chen stepped forward, grateful for her diplomatic training in unprecedented situations. "Keeper Zulaneth, we are honored by your welcome. I am Ambassador Lisa Chen, representing humanity. We come seeking sanctuary and the opportunity to build a new future for our species." "Your departure from the Council of Lesser Voices was illuminating," Zulaneth continued. "We have observed that organization for many cycles, watching as they repeat the same patterns of fear and limitation that have held galactic civilization for thousands of years." Dr. Stone could not contain her scientific curiosity. "Keeper, Your technology suggests you have been active in this region for thousands of years, yet the Council has no record of your species. Zwellineth's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. Dr. Stone, is it not? Your scientific mind seeks answers. This is admirable. We withdrew from lesser galactic politics long ago, when it became clear that the younger species were content with stagnation. Captain Morrison noted the phrase younger species and its implications. How long have the architects been in this region? Time becomes meaningless when measured against the cosmic scale, Zwellineth replied. But to use your measurements, we have been here for approximately 47,000 years. We were old when your species first looked up at the stars and wondered. The number staggered the human delegation. 47,000 years of continuous civilization represented a perspective beyond human understanding. Ambassador Chen decided to address the crucial question directly. Keeper Zwellineth, humanity seeks to establish colonies in this region. We understand there are other species present. What is the political situation we are entering? Zwellineth's form shifted, and suddenly the chamber around them transformed into a three-dimensional map of the frontier zone. Star systems appeared as points of light, with different colors indicating various territorial claims and conflict zones. 3 primary powers currently contest for dominance, Zwellineth explained. The Void Reapers, a machine intelligence that consumes stellar material to fuel their expansion. The Swarm, a collective organism that seeks to incorporate all biological matter into its network. And the Remnant, descendants of another ancient civilization that fell to internal conflicts long ago. The map showed vast territories controlled by each faction, with numerous systems marked as contested zones. The scale of the conflicts made anything in Council space look small. Each represents a different approach to galactic dominance, Zwellineth continued. The Reapers seek to convert all matter into their mechanical perfection. The Swarm desires biological unity under their collective consciousness. The Remnant fights to reclaim what they believe is their ancestral territory. Dr. Stone studied the tactical display with growing concern. Keeper, where exactly were we planning to establish our colonies? The map zoomed in on a sector that appeared to be directly between all 3 hostile territories. Red warning indicators flashed as the display showed recent battle sites and expansion vectors. Your species has chosen to enter what we call the Crucible, Zwellineth observed. It is the most contested region in this sector, but also the richest in resources and ancient technology. Captain Morrison felt his military training kick in. Are you saying humanity is walking into a 3-way war zone? More accurately, Captain, you are creating a 4-way conflict zone, Zwellineth replied. Your species' arrival will upset the current balance of power. C's faction will attempt to either destroy you or incorporate you into their vision of galactic order. The implications were staggering. Humanity had left Council space to escape restrictions on their expansion, only to find themselves in the middle of conflicts that made Council politics look like children's games. Ambassador Chen maintained her diplomatic composure despite the growing crisis. Keeper Zwellineth, you have observed these conflicts for thousands of years. Surely the architects have some influence in maintaining balance. Zwellineth's form pulsed in a pattern the humans were beginning to recognize as the equivalent of a sigh. We have tried, Ambassador Chen. For thousands of years, we have attempted to guide these species toward peaceful coexistence. Our efforts have been unsuccessful. The chamber shifted again, showing images of massive battles, dying stars, and worlds stripped of all life. The scale of destruction was beyond anything in recorded galactic history. The Void Reapers view us as inefficient biological matter to be processed. The Swarm sees us as a valuable addition to their collective consciousness. The Remnant considers us usurpers of territory that belongs to their long-dead empire. Dr. Stone made the connection that everyone was beginning to fear. You were telling us that 3 separate hostile civilizations, each more advanced than anything in council space, are going to view humanity as either a threat or a resource. Precisely, Dr. Zulaneth confirmed. However, there is another possibility. Camber fell silent as the human delegation waited for what they hoped would be better news. In our long observation of galactic civilization, we have noted that humanity possesses certain unique characteristics. Your species has a remarkable ability to adapt, to innovate under pressure, and to unite in the face of existential threats. Captain Morrison leaned forward. You were saying we might be able to survive this. Captain, I am saying you might be able to do something far more significant than merely survive, Zulaneth replied. You might be able to break the cycle of endless conflict that has plagued this region for thousands of years. Ambassador Chen felt a glimmer of hope. What would that require? His form brightened. It would require humanity to become something greater than what you have been. It will require you to master technologies beyond your current understanding, to forge alliances with beings who have never known peace, and to make choices that will determine the fate of entire civilizations. The ancient being paused, his crystalline form shifting to what seemed like a more formal stance. Most importantly, it would require you to accept a responsibility that no species in galactic history has ever successfully borne. The responsibility to bring order to chaos, peace to eternal war, and hope to a region that has known only conflict for longer than your civilization has existed. 6 months into humanity's settlement of the frontier zone, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before a holographic display that showed the impossible. In half a year, human engineering teams working with architect technology had accomplished what should have taken decades. 3 major colony worlds were not just established, but thriving. New Geneva, built around an ancient architect orbital platform, housed 2 million colonists and served as humanity's new capital, the industrial world of Nova. Detroit had become a manufacturing center that produced technology beyond anything in council space, and the agricultural planet of New Eden was already supplying food to a dozen minor colonies throughout the sector. Dr. Rebecca Stone had spent those 6 months in a state of constant amazement. The architect knowledge-sharing process had accelerated human technological development by centuries. Quantum manipulation, stellar engineering, consciousness transfer technology fields that had been theoretical were now practical applications. The fusion reactors on Nova Detroit are operating at 97% efficiency, reported Chief Engineer Danny Wright from his position at the engineering console. We are producing more energy per unit than anything the council ever achieved. The miraculous progress had come at a cost that was becoming increasingly apparent. Captain Morrison returned from a patrol mission with troubling news. Admiral, we have detected Void Reaper scout ships along our outer perimeter. They are not engaging, but they are definitely studying our defenses. The Void Reapers had been the first to respond to humanity's expansion. Initial contact had been brief and terrifying machine intelligences that viewed all biological life as raw material for their endless expansion. Diplomatic overtures had been met with demands for humanity's immediate surrender and integration into their collective commander. Lucy Parker brought equally disturbing intelligence from the opposite frontier. The swarm has begun establishing forward positions in the Kepler cluster. Our biology teams report they are adapting their organisms specifically to counter human biology. The swarm's approach had been more subtle, but no less threatening. They had sent what appeared to be diplomats, beings that had once been individuals from various species, but were now part of a vast collective consciousness. Their offer had been simple: join willingly and retain some individual identity, or be absorbed forcibly and lose everything. General Paul Mitchell added the third piece of the strategic puzzle. The remnant has issued what their translators describe as a final declaration of territorial sovereignty. They are giving us 30 standard days to evacuate what they consider their ancestral territory. The remnants' reaction had been the most complex. Descendants of an ancient empire that had once controlled much of the frontier zone. They viewed humanity's presence as the latest in a series of invasions by younger species. Their technology was on par with the architects, but their society was built around concepts of honor and ancient rights that made negotiation extremely difficult. Ambassador Lisa Chen joined the strategic conference via quantum communication from New Geneva. The situation is deteriorating faster than our projections indicated. Each faction is interpreting our technological advancement as preparation for aggressive expansion. Dr. Stone highlighted the core problem. The architect technology we have integrated has made us appear far more threatening than we actually are. Our energy signatures now match those of a major galactic power. Keeper Zul'Aneth materialized in the conference room, his crystalline form flickering as the quantum projection stabilized. The acceleration of your species' development was necessary, he stated. The alternative was certain destruction. The Keeper's presence had become more frequent as the crisis deepened. His guidance had been invaluable, but his motivations remained mysterious. Keeper, Admiral Sullivan said, our intelligence suggests all three factions are preparing for coordinated action against humanity. Are we looking at simultaneous attacks from multiple directions? Swanna's form pulsed and patterns the humans had learned indicated deep concern. Admiral, the situation is more complex than a simple military confrontation. Each faction views your species through the lens of their own history and fears. The holographic display shifted to show historical records from the Architect archives. Images of vast battles, dying civilizations, and technological horrors beyond imagination filled the conference room. The Void Reapers were once a biological species called the Eternal Seekers, Zul'Aneth explained. They chose to upload their consciousness into machine substrates to achieve immortality. Over thousands of years, they have lost all connection to their biological origins and now view organic life as an obsolete evolutionary phase. The display showed the transformation of an entire civilization from biological to mechanical. It's a gradual loss of creativity and individual thought as efficiency became the only value trait. The swarm began as a rescue operation, Zul'Aneth continued. Dying species called the Unity attempted to preserve themselves by creating a collective consciousness that could survive planetary destruction. Their success was so complete that they now believe all consciousness should be unified under their control. Images of worlds being systematically converted into biological processing centers illustrated the swarm's approach to galactic expansion. The remnant are survivors of the First Empire, civilization that achieved technological transcendence but destroyed itself through internal conflicts over the proper use of that power. They believe that only they have the wisdom to wield advanced technology responsibly. The final series of images showed the aftermath of the First Empire's civil war. Entire star systems reduced to ash. Billions of years of evolution wiped out in moments of cosmic rage. Captain Morrison understood the implications immediately. They are not just seeing us as competitors for territory. They are seeing us as potential versions of themselves, species that might make the same mistakes they did. Precisely, Captain, Zul'Aneth confirmed. Each faction believes that by stopping humanity now, they can prevent another cycle of galactic catastrophe. Ambassador Chen leaned forward. But that means any demonstration of our advanced capabilities only reinforces their determination to stop us. And yet, Dr. Stone added, without those capabilities, we have no chance of defending ourselves against any one of them, let alone all three. The strategic paradox was clear. Humanity needed advanced technology to survive, but possessing that technology made them appear to be the very threat their enemies feared. General Mitchell pulled up tactical projections. Our current military capabilities are impressive, but we are still outnumbered, approximately 1,000 to 1 by each faction individually, if they coordinate their attacks. He did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood that humanity's survival depended on preventing a united assault by their three potential enemies. Keeper Zulaneth's form shifted to a more formal configuration. There is one possibility that we have not yet discussed. The room fell silent as everyone waited for what they hoped might be a solution. The ancient weapon systems that the architects constructed during the height of our civilization, Zulaneth said slowly, is technology capable of reshaping the fundamental forces of reality itself. Admiral Sullivan felt a chill despite the environmental controls. What kind of weapons are we talking about? Stellar manipulation arrays capable of triggering supernovas at will. Dimensional manipulation devices that can isolate entire star systems from normal spacetime. Consciousness disruption fields that can break the collective mind of the swarm, or shut down the network intelligence of the Void Reapers. The power being described was beyond anything in human experience. It was the ability to play God on a galactic scale. Dr. Stone asked the question everyone was thinking. Why have not the architects used these weapons to bring peace to the region? Meth's form dimmed noticeably. Because, Dr. Stone, the last time we used such power, we nearly destroyed the galaxy itself. The creation of the galactic core's black hole was not a natural phenomenon. The revelation sent shockwaves through the human leadership. The architects had once possessed the power to move black holes, and they had used it. A responsibility. For such power, Zulaneth continued, requires wisdom that we found ourselves lacking. We withdrew from galactic affairs because we realized that power without perfect wisdom inevitably leads to catastrophe. Ambassador Chen understood the offer being made. You're saying humanity could access these weapons? I am saying that humanity must choose, Zulaneth replied. Face certain destruction with your current capabilities, or accept responsibility for power that could save the galaxy or destroy it entirely. The conference room fell silent as the human leadership contemplated a choice that would determine not just their species' fate, but potentially the fate of all life in the galaxy. 1 year after leaving the Galactic Council, humanity faced its greatest test. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of Nexus Station, humanity's most advanced orbital fortress, as reports flooded in from across the frontier zone. Void Reaper fleets have begun their final approach, reported Captain Morrison from his position aboard the battleship Defiance. 2,000 vessels of unknown classification. Their energy signatures are off the charts. The Void Reapers had chosen to strike first. Their machine logic, concluding that humanity represented the greatest threat to their vision of mechanical perfection. Their fleet was a symphony of geometric precision, each ship a work of deadly art designed for maximum efficiency and destruction. Commander Lucy Parker transmitted from the southern perimeter. Swarm bioships are emerging from quantum tunnels throughout the sector. I count at least 1,500 organic vessels, each one the size of a city. The swarm's approach was characteristically different. Their ships were living creatures, bred for war, capable of adapting their tactics in real time as battle conditions changed. They moved with organic fluidity, more like a school of predatory fish than a military formation. General Paul Mitchell coordinated the defense from the northern frontier. Remnant forces are holding position at the edge of the system, but their weapons are charging. Thermal signatures suggest they are preparing to activate something massive. The remnant had brought fewer ships, but each one represented technology from the height of the First Empire. Their vessels looked more like mobile planets than spacecraft, bristling with weapons that could crack worlds. Ambassador Lisa Chen stood beside Admiral Sullivan, with women understanding that diplomacy had reached its limits. The time for talking had passed. Dr. Rebecca Stone monitored the architect systems that had been integrated into Nexus Station. Admiral, Keeper Zul'Aneth is requesting final confirmation. The ancient weapon systems are ready for activation. The decision that had been months in the making now came down to moments. Humanity could face the overwhelming odds with conventional weapons and almost certainly perish. Or they could accept the responsibility for power that had once nearly destroyed the galaxy. Keeper Zul'Aneth materialized in the command center, his crystalline form more solid than usual. Admiral Sullivan, the moment of choice has arrived. Will humanity accept a burden of guardianship? Admiral Sullivan looked around the command center at the faces of her officers, each one representing the best of human capability and determination. These were people who had left everything behind to forge a new future among the stars. They deserved better than extinction. Keeper, if we activate these weapons, what happens to us? What happens to humanity? Zul'Aneth's form pulsed with what had become familiar as his expression of deep concern. You will become what we became, Admiral Cage, guardians of galactic civilization, forever changed by the responsibility you bear. Dr. Stone interrupted with urgent news. Admiral, I am detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the system. All three fleets are preparing to attack simultaneously. The tactical display showed the convergence clearly. In minutes, humanity would face the combined might of three galactic superpowers. Admiral Sullivan made the decision that would echo through galactic history. Keeper Zul'Aneth, activate the ancient systems. Humanity accepts the burden of guardianship. The transformation was immediate and breathtaking. Nexus Station began to change, its structure flowing like liquid metal as architect technology integrated with human engineering. Similar changes rippled across every human installation in the frontier zone. Captain Morrison watched in amazement as his ship's systems evolved in real time. Admiral, we are detecting new weapon systems, enhanced shields, and something else. It is like the ship is alive. The enhanced human fleet moved to intercept the approaching enemies. But their tactics were unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. Instead of engaging in direct combat, they began to demonstrate the true scope of their new capabilities. Commander Parker's voice crackled over the communication system. Swarm bioships are reverting to individual consciousness. The collective link is being disrupted. The consciousness disruption field was working exactly as designed. Across the swarm fleet, individual organisms were breaking free from the collective mind that had controlled them for thousands of years. Some ships simply stopped moving as their crews rediscovered individual thought. Others began to withdraw as newly independent beings chose to flee rather than fight. General Mitchell reported similar success against the Void Reapers. Their network intelligence is fragmenting. Individual ships are defaulting to base programming, but they are no longer coordinating as a unified force. The Void Reapers' perfect machine efficiency was being undermined by the restoration of individual decision-making processes they had discarded long ago. Ships that had operated as a single entity for thousands of years suddenly found themselves isolated, each one forced to make independent tactical decisions. The remnant fleet presented a different challenge. Their technology was designed to resist exactly these kinds of attacks, built by beings who had once wielded similar power. Remnant forces are adapting, Admiral Sullivan observed. Their shields are holding against the consciousness fields. Keeper Zul'Aneth's form brightened, as expected. The remnant will require a different approach. Dr. Stone activated the stellar manipulation array, focusing not on the remnant ships, but on the star system itself. The local sun began to pulse with controlled energy, its output modulated to create a specific pattern. The effect on the remnant fleet was immediate and profound. Their ships powered down their weapons and began broadcasting on ancient frequencies. Admiral Ambassador Chen said, monitoring the translations. They are requesting Parley, the star pattern. It is a recognition code from the First Empire. The realization hit everyone simultaneously. Humanity was not just using architect technology. They were using systems that predated even the architects' technology from the very civilization the remnant claimed as their ancestors. The star pattern was a message of legitimacy, proof that humanity had been granted access to the deepest secrets of the First Empire. To the remnant, this was not an act of war, but a revelation of authority. Admiral Sullivan found herself speaking words she had never planned to say. All fleets, this is Admiral Sullivan of the Human Federation. By the authority granted to us by the architects and in accordance with the ancient codes of the First Empire, we claim guardianship of this sector. The response was immediate. The fragmented Void Reaper ships began forming new, smaller fleets as individual units chose to either retreat or request asylum. Many of the liberated swarm organisms signaled their desire to join humanity rather than return to collective consciousness. The remnant fleet assumed formation around human vessels, their ancient codes compelling them to serve the rightful guardians. Captain Morrison's voice carried a note of wonder. Admiral, we are receiving thousands of communications from across the sector. Species we have never heard of are emerging from hiding, requesting protection from the three major powers. The revelation was staggering. The frontier zone was not empty except for the three major factions. Dozens of minor species had been hiding, surviving in the shadows of the eternal war. Now, with the balance of power shifted, they were revealing themselves. Dr. Stone monitored the cascading effects of their actions. The quantum tunnel network is stabilizing. We now have access to instant transportation across 17 star systems. The ancient manufacturing stations are coming online. We have the infrastructure to support a civilization spanning multiple galaxies. Keeper Zulanes' spawn began to fade as his people's long vigil finally came to an end. Admiral Sullivan, the responsibility is now yours. Use this power wisely. Learn from our mistakes. And remember that the greatest strength is knowing when not to use the power you possess. As the ancient architect withdrew, Admiral Sullivan looked out at the transformed frontier zone, where once there had been endless war. Now, there was the possibility of peace. Where once there had been three hostile powers, now there was a new order with humanity at its center. Ambassador Chen approached the observation deck. Admiral, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They are requesting immediate diplomatic contact. Admiral Sullivan smiled grimly. The council that had once tried to contain humanity was now seeking their attention. The species that had left the galaxy now held the key to its future. Tell them, she said, that humanity will consider their request. But this time, we meet as equals. The day humans left the Galactic Council truly had been the day the universe changed forever. From the ashes of political defeat, humanity had risen to become the guardians of galactic civilization itself. And this was only the beginning.